Good evening. My name is Toby Tichton-Beck, and I'm the director of the Holocaust Resource Center in Buffalo. It's July 20th, 1987, and our guest this evening is Mrs. Edith Froehlich, who was born in Germany. Edith, will you tell us a little bit about your childhood growing up in, what is the name of your town?
My town is called Rödelheim. It's a suburb of Frankfurt. That's where I was born in 1923.
Will you tell us about your family, your mother, father, what you did, so forth and so on?
Well, I was the only child, and my father was in sales, and my mother ran a business at home, a store. We had two stores. One was cigarettes and cigars, and another one was called Weißwoll and Kurzwaren, which is wools, you know, to knit, and laces and material, tablecloths and things like that.
And you had a happy, normal childhood, I presume?
Yes, yes.
I think we have pictures here of your mother and your father. And we'll see them on the screen. Is there anything you want to tell us about that picture?
No, I don't recall now how old I was.
You look like you might be 5 or 6.
Yes,
You're very sweet.
I think so.
And a picture of your father.
Yes.
Very stately looking. And this is in Rödelheim.
In Rödelheim.
Rödelheim. We have a picture of the synagogue. Oh no, first we have a picture of the prayer book, and there's something in the prayer book you want to tell us about.
Yeah, the prayer books were printed in Rödelheim. And there you see it, Frankfurt am Main, Rödelheim.
You mean all the prayer books for Germany were printed
in Rödelheim? Yes.
So there was a factory?
Yes, and they printed all the prayer books. And as you can see, the one 1938, I imagine that was the last time in print.
And here...
This is a picture of the synagogue.
And were there other synagogues?
No, not in Rödelheim. In Frankfurt you had larger synagogues, but in Rödelheim you just had one. And
was that synagogue destroyed?
Yes, it was burned on the Kristallnacht, completely destroyed.
Well, before we get to Kristallnacht, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your childhood. About the kind of school you went to, your playmates.
When I started out, I went to kindergarten with the Catholic nuns, and then later on I went to a Jewish lyceum, which is a Jewish high school, and after that to the Jüdische Haushaltungsschule, which is a Jewish vocational school, and after that I was
Well, wait, but don't go further than that. But your childhood was normal. You had Jewish friends and non-Jewish friends, I presume.
Yes, yes.
And did you have any feeling of what was happening with the emergence of the National Socialist Party or Hitler?
No. My father felt he was fighting for the Germans in the First World War, and nothing could happen to him.
So you had a nice, happy, normal childhood.
Yes.
We have pictures of your nice, happy childhood with the kindergarten, 1929. Do you remember anything about that period? You were so young.
No, not really. Not really.
That's the kindergarten. Then we have a picture of the high school.
Yes, that's the high school.
Now, why did you leave the high school?
Well, it was already in '37. We knew we couldn't stay in Germany, and it wouldn't have paid to get academic credit. I had to learn a trade or something, so if we could leave Germany, that I could make a living and could stand on my...
So what were you learning then?
Well, I did go after the Lyceum. I went to the vocational school where I learned how to cook and sew, and languages too. In the morning, languages, you know, English and French, and then in the afternoon...
You learned English?
Oh, already in high school, you know, that is a must.
Did you like learning how to cook and sew?
Very much so, very much. It was very enjoyable. And it was also a Jewish vocational school, and it was strictly kosher. You know, you had different kitchens, milchish, fleischish. So.
Did you have to wear a Jewish star?
No, I left just before that.
Right, so we're approaching about the time of Kristallnacht,
yeah.
Crystal Night, November 8th, 38. What happened on that night
Well,
in your town?
a whole band of men came and they threw
From
Rödelheim,
Rödelheim.
yeah, in their uniforms, in Nazi uniforms, and they took stones and threw them through the windows of the store, and they looked for my father, and I hid him in
You
the attic.
yourself hid him?
In the attic, but then it was no use. My mother said I should let him go, and they took him to Buchenwald, where he stayed approximately, I think, maybe a month. And then my mother heard that when one produces the Iron Cross, because my father was fighting for the Germans in the First World War, that he would have a chance to get out. She would have a chance to get him out of Buchenwald.
Well, did everyone get an Iron Cross, or was that for a special
no.
merit?
I mean, yes.
So she took the Iron Cross to the Nazi
Gestapo or somewhere, and we got him out alive.
We have a picture of that Iron Cross that we can see now. It says 1914, 1918. So he was very proud of that. Thank God for that.
Well, we never would have thought of it. I mean, you don't think of those things, but this actually helped at that time to get him out.
Now, when he was there for 1 month, what did he say about that?
He was scared, very scared. He didn't talk about it.
He just
no,
didn't tell you.
they told him if they would tell anybody what was going on, they would take him back. He was scared. He never mentioned it.
Even in later years?
No.
And what happened to the synagogue on Crystal Night?
It went up in flames. It was inferno.
Everything in
Yes,
the Torah and the
Torahs
books.
and everything. And I think of it now, it's
You
a
still
terrible
remember that.
thing, yes.
Did everybody in the town start preparations for leaving?
Well, you couldn't leave. You had to have an affidavit. If you didn't have a sponsor, you couldn't leave the country. So you might have had the intention, but if you didn't have a sponsor, you couldn't leave.
So what happened to you at this time?
I don't know exactly how it happened, but we heard there is a children transport. One could leave with a children transport to either England or Sweden. And I had a chance to go to Sweden. So my mother felt, since we had high numbers to come to America, and it went by numbers.
By high numbers, meaning it would take a long
time. So my mother felt that I would be safer to leave ahead of time, and that's how I left for Sweden.
How old were you then?
15.
And what kind of feelings did you have leaving your parents at that time? Were you frightened?
Not at all, not at all.
It was an adventure.
I guess so. I didn't realize it.
And how did you go to Sweden?
We went from Frankfurt to Berlin, and then from Berlin to Sweden by ferry, I think. Train, and then later on by ferry.
How long did that take?
I don't recall anymore.
And did any of your school friends from Rödelheim go?
No, none.
Just you yourself?
Yes. But different children from different other cities came to Falun in Sweden. And
tell us what happened to you in Sweden, where you were housed, what you did, who the children were.
some children worked for farmers. I wasn't very enthusiastic to work on a farm, and I stayed in the home. I cooked for the group.
For the children?
For the children.
And how many children were there?
Maybe 60 to 80.
Were you the chaperone, or was there
No,
an
I
adult?
wasn't. There were adults there who were in charge.
From Sweden?
No, from Germany, a young couple. And we had some matrichim, I guess you call it.
Some instructors?
Yes. And that's about it.
And what was the intention of the instructors and the couple?
Well, actually, when I left for Sweden, it was like a hachshara, and
Preparation
for
Palestine.
And that's really where I wanted to go. But since I was the only child, and my parents left in the meantime for America, the number was called.
Were you corresponding?
With my parents, yes. See, you could correspond because Sweden was neutral, so the mail went through.
And how did your parents get out so quickly if you said the number was so high?
Well, they didn't get out that quickly. I left in '39. My parents didn't leave till March 1940.
Oh, I see.
You see?
So they were
So
working on...
yeah. And then I did not come to America till January 1941.
Now, did someone sponsor them in America?
Yes, yes. My father's sister came to America, and she met a man here who hired her as a housekeeper. And then within a week he proposed marriage to her, and he was a man who gave me my affidavit then, my uncle, to come to America.
And he gave your parents their...
No, my parents got an affidavit from someone in New York, a distant cousin. And my father's sister, she went to New York first when she came from Germany, and she did everything in her power to get sponsors so we could come to America.
Now, whom did your parents leave behind in Germany?
My mother has a sister. My sister was married, my aunt and uncle and cousin.
Did they try to get out too?
Yes, but their number was too high.
And did they
didn't-
survive?
No, they were shipped to a concentration camp.
And you know
they
that
all
they
perished.
died,
Yes,
they
they all
perished.
perished. Yes.
So in the meantime, your parents are leaving in 40, and you're still in Sweden,
yes.
and you get word from them that there's an affidavit for you. Is that how it worked?
Well, Sweden, we didn't. They decided that it was time to go to Palestine, and then
The group, you mean?
The group. And in the meantime, my parents came to America, and since I was the only child, they felt I should come to America and not go to Palestine. And as I said, my aunt provided us.
So the
then-
group, when you left Sweden, though, was the group still there?
The group was still there,
Oh.
but then shortly after, they did go to Palestine.
And did they all make it to Palestine?
As far as I know, some
Because that was illegal immigration at
yes,
that time.
but some decided to stay in Sweden. Not everybody left for Palestine.
Oh, just to live
some
there.
got used to Sweden and worked for farmers, and others learned some trades, and some elected to stay in Sweden, and some left for Israel and for Palestine.
Are you in touch with anybody in that group?
Just one person last year, I heard she was coming to America to see America.
From
and
where?
From Stockholm.
And you've
And
been in touch with her?
Not at all. Not
Well, how
at all.
did you hear?
A year before or so, my daughter went to Scandinavia, and I told her if she had time to look up an old friend of mine.
But you didn't even really know whether she was still there, did you?
Yes, I found that out when we were in Israel in 1972, that some people were still in Stockholm. And I said to my daughter, if you can, please contact Judith, which she did, and she had lunch with her. And last year, I got a letter that she decided to come to America, to see America. So my husband and I, we drove to Washington to meet her. And it was just like, it didn't seem that 40 years had passed, and or even longer than 40 years. It just seemed we took off where we left off.
So it was a wonderful
It was
reunion.
a wonderful reunion, yes.
Well,
yes.
let's go back now. Let's get you out of Sweden. You have a Reisepass. You have a passport. Let's take a look at that passport. Maybe you'll tell us something about this.
Well, you can see my ear shows.
What does that
That
mean?
means Jewish people, they had to show their ear. You know, I don't know why. You had to sign your name. Every Jewish person, every girl, female had to sign it, Sarah, as a middle name, and every male had to say Israel.
Oh, so it says
that's
Edith,
why my name,
Sarah
my name
Stern.
was Edith Stern, but you had to sign it Edith Sarah
That
Stern.
was one of the madnesses
Requirements
of the Nazis.
yes.
And what did the men have to sign?
Israel.
Israel. So it was Sarah and Israel.
Yes,
Everybody was
yes. The
identified.
women were Sarah, that could tell them they were Jewish, and every man was Israel.
And you are how old here? You're 16? About 16?
15.
15, 16.
37,
We also
38.
have a picture of your group in Sweden.
15.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, we
that
have
was-
an individual picture. This
Yeah,
is-
that was when I was in Sweden.
Right. And now we have a picture of the group. Maybe you could tell us why you're wearing an apron.
I elected not to work on the farm and cook for the group. So that's probably why I had an apron on.
And where is the woman whom you met in Washington? Is she in that picture? Can you tell?
I can't now. I can't see it from here.
Did everyone in
sorry.
that group survive the Nazis? Well, of
I
course they went
imagine
to
the
Palestine.
Nazis, but some of them are now in Israel. And as I said, some of them stayed in Sweden, and some of them died already in the meantime.
And here's a picture of your
My
father
father.
in America. Maybe you
Yes.
want to tell us a little bit about that.
When we came over, my father, my parents each had, I think, 10 mark. I don't know if each one had 10 mark or together. I'm not sure anymore. And they were willing to do anything. And as you can see, he worked in a iron place where they constructed cranes or something. I'm not sure anymore.
This is in Buffalo?
He is in Buffalo.
So
yes.
this is a man who is essentially a white-collar worker, and here he's doing heavy manual work.
Was willing to do anything, which he did.
How many years did he do this?
Oh, quite a few years. Quite a few years, and then he decided he would go back to selling. You know, because one thing, my father didn't speak English. My mother spoke English fluently, but my father didn't. So for that reason, he couldn't do right away sales work.
But he learned English.
Yes,
in the
he did
interim.
learn. And then
how did your mother get to know English so well?
in school, my mother worked for a newspaper in Germany before she was married, and she had French and English in high school.
How was their acclimatization to living in America? Do you remember anything?
I think they just adapted very normal. They weren't demanding. They were happy to be alive, and they were willing to do anything.
And they preceded
and we
you?
we had really no help from anybody. My mother washed floors in apartment buildings, and I do remember she didn't know spick and span. Somebody poured a whole package of spick and span. She came home, her hands were, raw. But they did everything. Then they peddled eggs, and butter. And it was a very small beginning, but we were alive and we were grateful.
What brought them to Buffalo?
As I said, my father had one sister.
Oh,
she
in
came to
Buffalo?
New York, and then she also had a stepbrother. Her parents raised that man in Germany, and he lived in Toronto. So he said to her, to my aunt, it would be easier for me to see you if you would live in Buffalo. And when you're not a citizen, you couldn't go over the border. So he put an ad in the Jewish Review for a housekeeper, and this man answered and hired her as a housekeeper, and as I mentioned,
proposed
to her very shortly afterwards.
Is that family still here in Buffalo?
No, they died. He died, yes. But
what was the name of the?
Sivan.
Oh, that's such an interesting story.
Yes.
And that's how your parents...
He fell in love with her and married her,
And so your parents preceded you?
Yes, and they came to Buffalo because my aunt was here.
Right. What year did they come?
In March 1940.
And what year did you come?
I left Sweden December 1940 and arrived in Buffalo January 1941.
All right, we'll get to that in one moment about your arrival in Buffalo. Can you tell us a little bit about leaving Sweden and how you traveled and what you did?
I left Stockholm and flew from Stockholm to Moscow.
Who paid for all this?
I think the Jewish Federation
community.
must have, I think Eva Warburg was the one who arranged all that. Some of it my parents had to send from here. So I left Stockholm and I flew to Moscow. From Moscow I took the Trans-Siberian Railroad, Moscow, Omsk, Novosibirsk, Birbichan, Vladivostok.
How long did that take?
I think 10 days and 10 nights.
And what do you remember that's so adventurous?
I had these two children which were handed to me at the airport. And I was
Moscow?
in Stockholm.
Oh, in Stockholm.
Eva Warburg said to me, I have here two children. She didn't tell me before. You're the only one who's leaving Stockholm, Sweden. You must take them to America.
Where were their parents?
Their parents were already in America.
Isn't
they
that
left
strange for the parents to proceed?
Well, they sent the children.
Oh, here's the picture that we have.
They sent the children to Sweden because, as I said, it was
Oh, it's
neutral.
neutral.
They were from Vienna, and they, in the meantime, also came to America, and then, of course, they wanted their children. At that time, the children were 7 and 9 years old.
And did you communicate well?
No, the children didn't speak German, and spoke Swedish fluently already.
And did you speak Swedish after a year?
Very, very little, because where we were in Falun, it's 150 miles northwest of Stockholm, we were very isolated. And since I didn't work for a farmer, or didn't work on the outside,
Oh, so
I didn't
you
have the
didn't have the-
opportunity to learn the language, for which I'm sorry today.
And those two children traveled with you for how many days?
46 days up to Buffalo. In Buffalo, somebody from the Jewish Federation took them from Buffalo by train to New York.
How was that, a young girl traveling with two children speaking a different language? Was that difficult? What do you remember?
I don't remember that it was any difficult. Only I was told the children went to sit in the bathroom. You know, we had to be very careful that they wouldn't catch anything. That's the only thing I remember, and I tried. I tried that.
Have
know.
you ever tried to find those children?
No, there was never any contact.
So, did you meet their parents?
No,
No.
no.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, so tell us about the reunion with your parents when you came to America. You came from a year later, and you went to New York, and then you went to Buffalo.
No, I went to Buffalo. I went direct to Buffalo.
And you hadn't seen them for...
I came from Japan to Seattle, Washington, and from Seattle, Washington by train to Buffalo, from Chicago, Buffalo, Seattle, Chicago, Buffalo.
For a small-town girl, you did quite a bit of traveling, didn't you?
Yes, it's 3/4 around the world.
So it was very exciting.
Yes.
Now, you hadn't seen your parents for 3 years, I presume. Was that it?
Approximately.
Can you tell us about the reunion? A little bit.
Uneventful. We were
Un-
glad to be together again.
Yes, it must have been wonderful. And did you start high school then?
I did go to school here for a while, and then my father felt I should help support the family, so I just did go to night school after that.
And you learned English?
Yes, well, I had English too. I spoke English also before I came to America, because it's a must. In Germany, you know, you have foreign languages. I had French and English in high school.
Now, you told me beforehand about a long-distance relationship with a soldier. Maybe you want to flesh that out.
Or how I met my husband.
Yes.
Well, one day, my aunt said to me, I received mail from a lonely soldier, and what should a married woman write to a young man? Why don't you write to him? And I said, well, if he wants to write to me first, I'd be glad to write to him. And one day I received a letter from Edith Froehlich, and we corresponded for 3 years because he was sent overseas. I didn't have a chance to see him anymore in the States. He was shipped overseas. And then 3 years later, when he came back, he called, and it seemed I knew him.
You seemed that you knew him very well
For
through
3
the
years,
letters.
I wrote him practically every day. At that time, I had a job as a timekeeper.
As a
Timekeeper in a steel plant, you know, and you take people's time, you check them in and out, and otherwise you have time. So I had plenty of time to write letters, so I wrote to him practically every day, and I
You
think
must
I
have
knew him.
appreciated that.
I think I knew him.
And he wrote to you
Yes,
frequently.
very
Where was he
much.
stationed?
He went to France and then to Germany, and it took 3 years till he came.
Did his family survive?
No, his family was killed. They sent, what do you call it, passage for them to come over Spain to America, and they got as far as Marseille in France, and that's when Hitler, you know, called them, and they were deported and killed. They went to
So they were so close to
yeah, they were so
freedom.
close. Yeah, it's very sad, very sad.
Were there children? Did he have brothers or sisters?
Walter had 2 sisters. One sister died here in America, and the other sister is still living, married in Baltimore.
So at least your children have some aunts and uncles, or had
One
One now.
aunt, one
One now.
aunt, one aunt. Yeah, it's a very small family, unfortunately.
Yes, that's what happens with a lot of the
Yes.
survivors.
Yes.
And after the war, many, many years afterward, you decided to make a sentimental return to Germany?
Yes, yes. At that time, my son said, "Mother, I'm going to Germany and to Switzerland and to Europe." And I said, "It would be nice if you would go to where I was born, to go to Rödelheim and go where Daddy comes from Eisenberg in der Pfalz." So he said, "Yes, under one condition, that you two come along." It wasn't planned. So we did go
What
because...
year was this?
79. And we did go for one reason. My grandparents were buried in Germany, and we wanted to go to the cemetery. And Walter's first mother was also buried, and grandfather and a little brother in Eisenberg. So Walter felt maybe it was really a good time to go, and we did go.
We have a picture of that cemetery. I don't know if it's Eisenbach
Well,
or...
this was a disappointment. That's in Rödelheim. When we came to the cemetery, there was just that one stone here, and it said, "Here used to be a Jewish cemetery." And that was it.
So
It was
all the graves were
everything is leveled.
destroyed?
Everything
Everything was
leveled.
leveled.
Just the lawn.
It must have
Just
been a
the lawn.
shock for
Yeah,
you.
and we really did go. We wouldn't have probably gone to Germany, but our reason to go to Germany was to go to the cemetery.
Did you go to your hometown?
Yes, we went to Rödelheim.
Oh, yes, we have a
We did.
picture of the house where you
yeah.
lived.
This was taken in 79. The house is pretty much unchanged.
Really?
Yes.
It looks like it looked
No, it's
40,
basically-
50 years before that.
No, it's basically the same home. Yes.
Did you go inside?
We went, there's a flower shop on the one side where the store used to be, and we couldn't go in. The people who lived upstairs, the tenants, weren't there. So we just went around the house to the inside, you know. As I said, it was pretty much unchanged.
Even the color was the same?
I don't know about the color, but the house was not remodeled or anything.
What kind of feelings did you have when you saw
To me, it was unreal, eerie, you know, because you would think when you go to a home, somebody opens the door and says, "Hello," there's nobody there. You know, my aunt, my mother's sister, and husband and child were killed. They were dragged out of this home and were killed. So here you go to, I wasn't delighted at all to go back. It's just a strange feeling.
Did you recognize any people?
Some people came out, but the fact that they were Nazis, you know, I couldn't just say, "Hello, I'm so happy to see you."
It was just
Yeah, for me
too
it was just going back into the past, because when you come to visit, you usually would think somebody opens the door, welcome, hello. There was no such thing. You know, our people died. Whereas we did go from Rödelheim to my husband's town in Eisenberg, and that was entirely different.
Why?
Because we did get into the house, and Walter's sister also came to Germany for that reason. And they said, "You remember, we used to be in this home, and here used to be a little horse, you know, when the children were small." And they went back to their past, and they were reminiscing, and they felt
So they felt comfortable
about it, you know. And also the inside was pretty much unchanged of the home.
Did they recognize anyone?
Oh yes, people came out, and some of the people, my sister-in-law said, weren't Nazis, and were not. And they were very warm and hospitable. We took them all to a small restaurant, had coffee and cake. It was entirely different in Eisenberg than it was where I was.
Why do you think there was that difference in feeling?
And feeling? Because the people who greeted my husband and my sister-in-law weren't Nazis, you know. They were good. They were good people. They were good people, you know. And so this was a different feeling.
We have one more picture about your return to Germany. Maybe you'll tell us about that.
This is where the synagogue used to be, and that was sent to me, and now they just have a memorial there.
So the synagogue, after Kristallnacht,
yeah,
it was completely razed?
Yeah, razed, and all which is left now is a memorial. Here used to be a Jewish synagogue.
Are there any Jews living in Rödelheim at all?
I don't think so, not that I know of. not that I know of.
What is that on the top of the monument?
I don't know what's a picture. I tell you the truth, I didn't examine it.
That's eerie to remember a building
We
and to
did
see
go,
a piece
also
of stone.
we did go where the synagogue used to be when we were in Germany, but at that time there wasn't a memorial. There was nothing there. It was just houses, you know, there was nothing there, nothing of the past.
Edith, do you tell your children your story, and does Walter tell the children?
Yes, the children know. As I said, they were in Germany. Even at that time when we were, my oldest son, Bill, was with us, and Jan also met us there. Carol couldn't go at the time, but a year or so later, she went on her own. And
She went to the two towns?
Yeah, she went to Rödelheim, she went to Eisenberg. In fact, she took pictures. She went to the inside of the house, and she said some Turkish people live in there now, from
so
from
strange,
Turkey.
isn't it?
Yes.
We have to sum up. Our time is coming to an end. Is there something that you want to say in summary, some impressions or philosophy that you want to conclude with? This is your story.
Something what happened is something you never forget, and even today, I hate to think of it. You know, we will never. I will never forget it. You know, it's just was just sad. But I also have to say we were lucky that I came out alive. I have to be thankful for that. You know, that I met a nice man, got married,
And had a normal life.
Yeah, so we have to be grateful.
Have you ever gotten together with any of the survivors of your town? Have you ever accidentally met them?
Yes. I have one friend. She lives in Hagerstown.
In Maryland?
Hagerstown, Maryland, yes. And another friend who went with me to the vocational school. She lives in Armonk, New York, you know, near White Plains. There are a few people.
How did you reunite? How did you get together?
When I was in Sweden, as I said, Sweden was neutral. They could correspond with me, and we kept in touch through all the years.
And did they go to America about the same time you did, or did they go through the camps? What was their...
No, they did not. My one friend in Armonk, her parents were killed, but she got out alive. And my other friend in Hagerstown, she didn't have to go to concentration camp. She made it out. I don't know anymore how, but she got out before.
But it seems like a dream, sometimes like a nightmare, that what you went through.
But I feel we were lucky. We were the lucky ones who didn't have to go through all that horror. So I think in a way.
Were you deprived of food or clothing at any time? Were you never hungry?
Never hungry. Sweden, that's one thing. You had always to eat. No, I didn't have bad times.
Did you ever go back to Sweden?
I would like to now, if, you know, I would like to. Because Walter hasn't seen Scandinavia, I would like to. It was beautiful, beautiful, peaceful.
There would be a place to go to. I wonder what is still in that area where your farm was.
I don't know. It doesn't exist anymore as far the people, you know. I think at that time they ran out of money, and everybody either had to decided to go to Palestine at that time, or find a job, or
Have you ever gotten together with any of the people in Israel? I know you've made a trip.
In '72, we went to Israel, and I saw Eva Warburg. Her name is Unge. She married, and she was the one who saved so many children because her mother was Swedish, and she was really instrumental.
She wasn't Jewish, her mother?
She was Jewish, yes.
Oh, she was Jewish.
Oh, yes,
and
the
Swedish.
Warburgs, you know, the banking business.
Oh, yes.
The
yes,
Warburgs. And Eva, she was the one who helped save the children, got the children out of Germany and settled us in Sweden.
Thank goodness. What was that reunion like, getting together with Mrs. Unger?
You know, I remembered everything about her. She did not remember me.
Well, she had
so
quite a few
many. She had so
charges.
many. But it was wonderful to see her again.
It was very considerate, too, of the Swedish people to make so many opportunities available.
Yes. So we were lucky. I think we were lucky.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to say, Edith?
No, I don't really know what else I could add.
Any kind of admonition to students who might be seeing this tape? Anything that you would like to advise them?
Well, they should know what happened years ago and how terrible it can be if your freedom is taken away from you. So
Very
I think they
basic.
should be very happy to be here
How normal lives are
in a free
upset.
country and be able to get an education and do what they're capable of being.
I guess we have to say, so be it. Thank you very, very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.